Hello and welcome to Jynx-Vision. I am Jinx the Lynx, and it's been a while since I've done one of these reviews. Hasn't been that many movies out there I wanted to see, but today is a big day. It's a Star Wars movie, Rogue One. Wow, it's been a year since The Force Awakens, and it's going to be a year until Episode 8. But in the meantime, we have the Star Wars anthology films, which are kind of filling in the gaps. First there's Rogue One, then there's going to be the young Han Solo movie in a couple of years, and who knows what's going to happen after that. But it's Star Wars for days. Or years, whatever. There's a lot of Star Wars coming is what I'm trying to say. So, Rogue One. As per my... Darn you, Squeaky Chair, I need to oil you. He's like the Tin Man. As per my usual style, I'm going to get into spoilers here as I reveal parts of the story. Now, in this instance... I'm going to reveal my thoughts about the movie as a whole before I do the spoilers thing, and I'll put a little warning on the screen when spoilers pop up, so you'll be able to tell when I'm going to go deep into spoilers. So, general thoughts, no spoilers. I freaking loved it. Yeah, this movie is awesome. It's so good. I mean, it's really, really, really good. Probably a 9 out of 10, on my scale anyway. It's really, really good. Alright, with that out of the way, my general thoughts of the movie, I really, really like it. We're going to go deep into spoiler territory. Whoa! That's a big spoiler warning. Okay, go away, go away. So the movie does not start like a normal Star Wars movie. It has the Lucasfilm logo, and then a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But then there's no opening title crawl. The movie opens with a prologue set 15 years before the events of the rest of the movie. And we see a young Jyn Erso, who's just a little girl, and her father, Galen Erso, is trapped down by the Galactic Empire, which, by the way, has just been in existence for a couple of years now. So this is just a few years after Revenge of the Sith. And Director Koenig, he comes down with a squad of death troopers and captures, Jyn's father, Galen, and, kills her mother. And Jyn, she escapes and is found by Saw Gerrera, who you may remember from Star Wars The Clone Wars, during Season 5, the Onderon's Rebels story arc. So that was cool to see continuity with a character from the cartoon coming into a live-action movie. We've never done that before. This is the first time. So that's pretty cool. So Jyn she's found by the rebellion, and she's rescued from Imperial captivity. And they tell her that they need to find Galen Erso, her father, because he's an Imperial scientist. He's forced to work with the Imperial scientists, and he's working on something big, but they don't know what it is. Because there's a pilot whose name I forget. I think his name is Bodhi or something like that, but again, I'm not 100% sure. He defected from the Empire and said that they were working on a superweapon, a planet killer, which we of course know as the Death Star. I just remembered another thing. This movie actually has little captions on the screen to tell you where the planet is. It's like, Jeddah, Imperial occupied territory. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is totally new. We've never had that in a Star Wars movie before. Where they actually have a caption on the screen saying where you are. That's never happened in any of the other movies. So that was kind of cool. That was a neat little thing to make this one different. There's the planet Jeddah. Well, actually the moon Jeddah. Where the Jedi originally came from, I think. Because the Imperials are mining it for kyber crystals, which are the little crystals that power lightsabers, as well as the Death Star if you get a big enough one, which is, hinted at in the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. Jyn tries to get Saw Gerrera, the rebel I mentioned earlier from the Onderon story arc, and he's a beaten up old man. He's a very violent extremist, and he broke off with the Rebel Alliance years ago because of it. He's using terrorist tactics in a sense. And they ambush a bunch of Imperials in the middle of Jeddah City and, slaughter them. And that's where we meet this blind samurai guy with a stick. He's kind of like Kanan from Rebels Season 3, where he doesn't need to see, but he's beating the crap out of people with his big stick. So that's pretty cool. As well as another character, again, I forget his name. I don't think they ever said his name. He looks a bit like Saw Gerrera. He's got dark skin, long hair, and a beard, and he carries like an automatic gun. But again, I don't know his name. I don't think they ever said it in the movie. Sheesh. So that's a complaint. That's a complaint right there. The Death Star is floating overhead in orbit. Tarkin is in this movie, Grand Moff Tarkin, and I think they've digitally recreated him, because he looks exactly like he did in the original Star Wars movie, 40 years ago, but he's got a different voice. Obviously, there's a different voice actor playing him, and they CGI'd his face, basically, to... I would have gone with a prosthetics makeup, like they did at the end of Revenge of the Sith, with that one actor and that tiny blink and you miss it cameo. But, yeah, it's actually really convincing looking. It looks really good. I don't think there's that uncanny valley kind of thing, where it's close to human but not quite, therefore it's creepy. He looks really good. I mean, he looks photorealistic, and he moves, realistically, so there's nothing too creepy about it. I'm sure there's some people who are going to pick up on that, but I didn't, because I thought he looked really good. Because they CGI'd his face, basically. So he looks exactly like he did in the original 1977 movie, but his voice is different. You can't win everything. Anyway, Tarkin's there aboard the Death Star, and Director Koenig, who's in charge of the whole Death Star project, Tarkin orders him to test fire the weapon. So they aim the Death Star down at Jeddah City, and they nuke it. And it's just... I thought Independence Day had a very slow-moving explosion. Remember when the aliens were wiping out the cities? And it's like... Here it's even slower. It's like... It's that slow. It's a very, very slow atomic explosion. And that's kind of funny. It looks really, really cool when you see the shots from orbit, where it's just a ring spreading out. But it's a very slow-moving fireball, because it's so massive. It's huge. So Jyn and the rebels, they escaped, but Saw decides to stay behind, and he's obliterated by the explosion. So back on Yavin 4, the Rebel Alliance headquarters from the end of Star Wars: A New Hope, they decide, we gotta find Jyn's father, Galen. So Jyn Erso meets with the other rebels, including Mon Mothma, from Return of the Jedi and the Clone Wars. So again, nice continuity there. That they're trying to extract her father, and she thinks they're going to rescue him, to take him out of Imperial captivity, but the plan is actually to kill him, because he's working on the planet killer superweapon, and they need him out of the way. So, here she meets Cassian Andor, who's kind of like the pilot on the U-Wing, which is a new Rebel spaceship, which is pretty cool. So, they go to another planet, which is kind of cloudy and covered in storms all the time, where they're trying to find Jyn's father. And there's Cassian. Yeah, he gets a sniper rifle, and he's trying to line up the shot with him, but he can't bring himself to pull the trigger, basically. And Director Koenig arrives there, slaughters some scientists, and at the same time, the rebellion arrives. The X-Wings, the Rebel X-Wings fly in and start blasting the place. And in the aftermath, Galen Erso is killed, and Jyn's there to hear his final words. He's like, "Jyn, I have so much I want to tell you." And he dies. That's pretty much it. But it's a really sad scene. Oh yeah, earlier there's a scene on Jeddah where Jyn is watching the hologram with Saw Gerrera, the hologram of her father, saying how much he loves her, he misses her, and oh, by the way, I built this weakness into the Death Star plans where one fatal flaw will kill it, which of course we all know what that is. And Jyn, there's a close-up on her face where she's trying not to cry, but she's quivering, her eyes are watering, and it's really powerful. She's not saying anything, but you can... 15 years of emotion just welling up on her face. And then, of course, the Death Star shoots down at Jeddah, and I already mentioned that. So, the rebels have a meeting back on Yavin 4, where they say, we gotta fight back against the Empire. And the other people are saying, well, if they have the super weapon that can destroy a planet, we're out of it. We're out of the war. There's nothing we can do. We gotta surrender. And other people are saying, no, we fight. And other people are saying, oh, we run and hide. And everybody's arguing. And we see, Senator Bail Organa from the prequels, episodes 2 and 3, and he's played again by Jimmy Smits. So that's pretty cool, Bail Organa. And at the end of the scene, he's like, I must return to Alderaan. I have stuff to do there. Which, of course, in the next movie, we know what happens. Jyn and a couple of rebels, Cassian and K2SO, the droid, and a handful of other people, including the guy with the long hair, and the blind samurai guy, they decide to get together. You know, we're going to find where the Imperial Death Star plans are. They're on this planet Scarif, which is like a beautiful tropical island paradise. You know, it's really beautiful. The planetary shield on Scarif, it's just like the movie Spaceballs. So that was cool to see an atmospheric shield around the planet with only one point of entry. So that, I hope that was intentional, because that was pretty funny if it was. Star Wars making reference to Spaceballs. Wow. So the small band of rebels take in a stolen Imperial shuttle, and they infiltrate the planet Scarif through the planetary shield, you know, the one point of entry. And the rebels, they fan out, start setting explosives, while Cassian, Jyn, and K2SO, they don Imperial disguises and try to get inside to steal the Death Star plans, because that's where they're being held, in this archive, in this really tall tower thing. So the rebels, they start blasting the stormtroopers, and that's the start of like a half-hour-long battle, which is just excellent, where it's like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? So they're blasting the stormtroopers are fighting back, and Jyn and the others, they're trying to they're trying to make their way into the Death Star plan room, where Imperial archives, where they're holding, you know, Death Star plans as well as other things. So K2SO, he's you know, hacking into the computer, and he gets them into the secure vault while this big battle's going on outside. And then the Rebel fleet shows up. So, oh, shut up. So the Rebel fleet arrives from hyperspace, and this huge space battle starts, which is epic. It's really epic to see X-Wings and TIE Fighters and Y-Wings and Star Destroyers and... oh, shut up. And Mon Calamari Star Cruisers all going at each other. So it's like the end of Return of the Jedi. It's just a huge space battle while the ground battle's going on. And our rebels are actually shot at by a new version of all-terrain armored transports, AT-ATs, which are pretty cool. So it's a race against time. The rebels are stranded on this planet. The shield is closed, and they're cut off, and they're surrounded by Imperials everywhere. You know, there's AT-ATs, there's a limited number of X-Wings that have managed to get in through the shield, and they're grounded, they're trapped. So K2SO, he's killed while fending off the Imperial stormtroopers, while Jyn and Cassian are inside the vault, getting the Death Star plans. And it's a really sad scene to see this really funny robot die. And of course that's just the beginning, because outside in the battle, the long-haired guy with the beard, he dies, just after the blind guy dies. Director Orson Kernick, he comes to the vault, he sees the rebels are inside, he shoots at Cassian and he falls down and he's presumed dead. But Jyn, she climbs up after grabbing the Death Star planes. She climbs up from a bottomless pit area, and she gets to the top of the tower to try to transmit the plans. To the waiting rebel fleet up in space. So Jyn is cornered on top. She's just about to transmit the plans, and then Director Kernick shows up with a gun, and he's ready to kill her. But he has to give his villainous speech for some reason. And that gives Cassian time to show up and shoot him in the back. Jyn manages to transmit the plans to the Death Star up to the waiting fleet. And Grand Moff Tarkin, he's on the Death Star, which shows up out of hyperspace, and it's a really cool shot where you see this hemisphere of it rising over the horizon. So that's really cool. And it's like, we're going to target the Scarif base down there and destroy it. So they start targeting everything, and they blast the area where the rebels are all at, all of the Rogue One crew. And, you know, Jyn and Cassian, they hold each other against the beach. They hold each other, they're on the beach, while the huge, slow-moving explosion comes towards them. And, of course, they're wiped out. Everybody is. Everybody dies. And in one final act of the final bit of the movie, Darth Vader and the Imperial fleet, part of the Imperial fleet, arrive, and Darth Vader boards the Rebel flagship. And there's a really cool scene where he fights a bunch of Rebel troopers and kills them, you know, using the Force. He chokes them, he takes their weapons, he slices them with his lightsaber, and he just kind of throws them against the ceiling, against the walls. And he kills a bunch of them, and they're like, "Take the plans!" So Darth Vader's just a second too late. The rebels manage to escape with the plans into the Tantive floor, Princess Leia's starship from the beginning of Star Wars, and they take off. We see Princess Leia, she takes down her hood, and it's Carrie Fisher from 1977. How'd they do that? CGI probably. Either that or they got a body double who looked exactly like her. And I think they used the clip of her voice because it sounds exactly like her from when she used that kind of British accent from Star Wars. And it's like, here are the plans. What do they represent? And she's like, hope. And then the Tantive 4 zoom, jumps off to hyperspace, and that's the end of the movie. The movie was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. The characters, they're really cool. It just, they didn't mention some of their names. So I couldn't remember who was who. But, you know, the blind samurai guy, he was pretty cool. Jyn Erso, she's really cool. Because like I said, I'd rate this movie about a 9 out of 10. It's really, really good. You know, K2SO, he's really funny. And he's like C-3PO. He's just stating the obvious fact. Like, the high probability of us dying. Oh, it got even higher. And he was really, really funny. So this movie makes a lot of references to other Star Wars material. They make a couple of references to Rebels. When we arrive at Yavin 4, I think, for a corner, out of the corner of my eye, in the left corner of the screen, I thought I saw the Ghost. You know, the freighter, the Ghost from Star Wars Rebels. And over the intercom system, they say, General Syndulla, report to the briefing room. And I'm like, oh my god, General Syndulla? So she survives through Star Wars Rebels into Rogue One and A New Hope. That's amazing. Hera Syndulla, a general, alive at this point. It's just a question of who else will survive and who will die in Star Wars Rebels in the coming months and years of the season, of the show. We also see the Hammerhead corvettes from Star Wars Rebels, including one that crashes into a Star Destroyer that's hit by ion bombs. It's disabled, and it kind of pushes it, and it crashes into another Star Destroyer, and they both crash into the ring. That's at the that's the portal to the gate shield on the planet, and they blow it up, and it's a really awesome sequence. So the movie ended exactly as I thought it would. My thought was it'd be an impossible situation. The Rebels just barely managed to transmit the plans, but every single one of them dies. And that's exactly how it happened in the movie. It's kind of like Jurassic World, where I predicted exactly what the ending would be, but I still enjoyed watching it just to see it happen. So all the Rebels die, and it's really powerful and emotional and dramatic watching all these people that we've come to like over the course of the movie meet their ends. And of course, you know, those who didn't die in the gunfight are killed when Scarif base is blasted by the Death Star, still on low power mode. There's plenty of references to other Star Wars material. We see an Imperial probe droid in the background on Jeddah. We see Dr. Vanzan, the guy with the messed up face, and Pondo Baba. You know, he doesn't like you. I don't know where I'd rank it against the other Star Wars movies since it's fresh in my mind, so it's hard to tell. But I think I like it better. Maybe I like it better than The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens was really, really good, but it was not an original story. It was a rehash of A New Hope. This movie, even though it leads up to A New Hope, it feels original and new. And that was really cool. So, in this instance, I think I like the characters in The Force Awakens more. You know, Rey and Finn and Poe and Kylo Ren and everybody. But this movie, the characters are really good. The action and drama, and just the last half hour of the battle is so epic and huge. I think that part blows The Force Awakens out of the water. So, I gave The Force Awakens maybe a 7 or 8 on the Star Wars scale. This one I'd rank a 9. It's really, really good. I'll see you the next time. See you later.